Thanks to Hollywood, the media, there are a lot of myths about banking in another country. And so in this video, we're going to talk about 6 of the big myths, and we are going to debunk each of them. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson. If you want to learn how my team and I can help you create your own Nomad Capitalist plan, including banking overseas, you can learn more about that at nomadcapitalist.com. But let's talk about 6 big myths about banking offshore. And this term offshore has become pejorative because of the media, because of Hollywood. They don't like the idea that people have options. And so the number one myth that you've probably heard is that offshore banking is illegal. Anytime someone says, hey, I'm banking in another country, people instinctively think, oh, is that allowed? Now, banking in another country and not reporting it, for example, if you're a US citizen on an FBAR, potentially other forms, that could be illegal. You have to report your accounts in certain cases. And, we primarily work with Western nationalities here at Nomad Capitalist. Every once in a while, I come across someone from a country in Africa or somewhere like that where offshore banking is illegal in their country under certain circumstances. But by and large, offshore banking is legal. There may be reporting requirements, but simply putting your money somewhere else does not necessarily, it's not a crime. It's something that anyone can do. Now, myth number 2 is that it's all about tax evasion. People hear, oh, you're putting your money overseas. You must be trying to hide something. You must be hiding it from the tax man. Again, you saw the Wolf of Wall Street. I made a video kind of debunking the Wolf of Wall Street Swiss banking scene. And so, again, this is what Hollywood does. They want to make it like some guy's going to stash, bags of his illicit cash. I've never come across a single bank that I've dealt with, and I've dealt with hundreds of them. We have a spreadsheet of 800 banks that we keep in touch with. We have our team traveling to meet bankers all the time. Never have we met one where you can bring in a bag of cash. Really. If you bring in $1 million in cash, there might be a few in the Middle East, but in general, they're going to ask you some questions, and most of them are just going to flat out refuse to take it. So offshore banks are mostly like regular banks by and large. They're just banks in other countries, and so the idea that you're going to go and just stash your illegal cash, that it's all about tax evasion, it's simply not true, because there are so many transparency measures in place now to prevent people from doing that. Things like FATCA, things like CRS, all kinds of reporting. Governments have gotten together to stop that kind of thing. So while it may have been true in the past, it was never legal. It's never the kind of thing that we talk about. Now, myth number 3 on the other end of the spectrum is if you set up an offshore account, that's all you need to legally reduce your tax. People will email us every once in a while saying, hey, can you help me get a bank account somewhere else so that my income will be foreign sourced? They think they can live, let's say, in the United States, and as long as their money goes into a bank account somewhere else, it doesn't count. Like it's not real. It can't be taxed by the U.S. And that's nonsense. Where the money is earned is where the money is generally taxed. And we could get into a whole host of tax principles, which we cover on our channel. You can go and watch all of our videos on international tax. But simply putting the money in an account in another country does not change the source of the income. Where are you located? Where's the business located? Where are the clients located? There are a whole host of factors that determines who gets to tax the money. And yes, there are ways to legally dramatically reduce tax, but simply opening an account somewhere and putting the money there does not change the fact that you have to pay tax where you're earning the money. Myth number 4 is you need to be rich to bank overseas. Now, this is where I always talk about how in my lifetime, over 30 some years, you've seen a tremendous number of countries emerge, some of them from just total third world status. And a lot of those countries now have offshore banking options of their own. Now, if you're thinking, Wolf of Wall Street, 30 years ago, you might think Switzerland. If you've been following or doing some internet research in this area, you might have heard of Andorra, Liechtenstein, Isle of Man, something like that. A lot of those jurisdictions still do have relatively high minimums. Switzerland, to me, the juice is not worth the squeeze. The initial deposits can be $500,000, $1 million francs. And so, that's kind of expensive. If $500,000 francs is rich, then you need to be rich. But there's also countries, we've talked about, the Georgias and the Armenias. $1, go and open an account. There are plenty of accounts in just countries all over the world where $1, $500, $1,000. Now, I do think that those $1 and $1,000 opportunities are shrinking. One of my research team members was in Singapore recently, and an account that I opened 6 years ago with $1,000 is now no longer available. It's now $50,000 because they realized their worth and they realized $1,000 for non-residents to open an account is simply not enough. So, I do think the trend is that countries that are established are raising their minimums, but you're also seeing new countries come in where the minimums are relatively low. Myth number 5 is that you're all going to be dealing in some tiny fly-speck country or some island. Okay? Again, the media says, oh, they're putting the cash in a boat, they're taking it down to one of the money holes in the Caribbean. Yeah, the Caribbean has been widely known as one of the lesser tax havens, one of the lesser offshore banking jurisdictions, kind of a level below Switzerland, where anyone can just go and put money. And what's interesting is a lot of those countries have actually been reducing their offshore business, their banking, their offshore corporate structures, due to pressure from organizations like the European Union and the OECD, who have gone and put them on blacklists and said, if you want to be on our good side, you better shut down your banking. And so literally, some of those countries have shut down their offshore banking sectors. So, again, banking overseas means banking in any country where you're not a resident. You've got plenty of countries that are very well developed that offer banking opportunities. And myth number 6 is that banking overseas is not available to U.S. citizens. There's a lot of talk about how laws like FATCA have made it difficult for Americans to bank overseas. You've heard stories of people in Switzerland who have had their accounts closed. They can't get a mortgage. I have friends in Switzerland who their children can't get a general savings account, like a piggy bank at the bank. And in some countries that is true. In some of these European countries, particularly Switzerland, they've come down very hard. But if the goal is I'm a U.S. citizen, whether I'm living in the U.S., whether I'm a nomadic person, whatever, I can't get an account anywhere, nonsense. Out of those list of 800 banks that we keep, I'll bet 200, 300, 400 of them, somewhere in that range, will accept U.S. citizens. A lot of banks don't want U.S. citizens. There's actually several banks we came across who don't want former U.S. citizens. If you've ever been a U.S. citizen, forget it, we don't want you. But there are still hundreds of banks around the world, including ones that you can open with a very nominal amount of money. The one restriction that sometimes comes into play is you can't make certain investments. So if the bank offers mutual funds or a trading platform, they may restrict that to Americans. You may have lesser access to invest in things that non-U.S. citizens or non-U.S. residents could. But there are plenty of opportunities for U.S. persons, as they're called. So those are 6 myths you want to avoid. You can learn more on our offshore banking page on our website. Lots of videos here on our channel. And I want to hear what you think. Leave a comment below. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist. I wrote this book, which you can find on Amazon, to distill a lot of the stuff we talk about in these videos and a lot of the stuff I've learned over the last decade plus traveling all around the world, teaching you about how to legally reduce your taxes, build your personal freedom, and create wealth faster. Definitely get a copy of this book if you want to learn more. Now, if you want to watch more videos, make sure you subscribe to our channel and make sure you click the notifications bell so you never miss one of our new videos with more tips on how to go where you're treated best. And if you're already a 6 or 7-figure entrepreneur and you'd like to put these strategies in place for yourself, go to nomadcapitalist.com and learn about how I can help you.